There are two types of people sitting in the same classroom, eating the same lunch, writing the same exam. One of them goes home and their father asks, "So, what did you learn today?" The other goes home and their father asks, "So, what did we earn today?" One word, completely different world. That second question, "What did we earn?" is not an accident. It's not arrogance. It's not bragging. It's a habit. A ritual, a quiet lesson that gets repeated at the dinner table, in the car, on the way to the office. And most people never hear it. Not once, their whole lives. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. This is not a story about rich families being lucky. This is a story about rich families knowing something specific, something learnable, something that once you understand it, completely changes how you see money, work, and time. So, what exactly do they know? If you're someone trying to seriously build financial security in India, not just survive month to month, but actually get somewhere, consider subscribing to this channel. We don't recycle generic advice here. We go deeper. We find the things that actually matter. Let's start with what almost every middle-class family in India teaches their children about money. Work hard, study well, get a good job, save regularly, don't spend on unnecessary things, live within your means. That's it. That's the entire curriculum. And here's the painful part. None of it is wrong. Not a single line. Hard work matters, saving matters, discipline matters. But imagine you're trying to reach Mumbai from Delhi and someone gives you a very detailed, very accurate map of Bangalore. Every road on that map is real. Every direction is correct. The only problem is you're going to the wrong city. That's what's happening to millions of hard-working, disciplined, saving religiously Indian families. They're following the right instructions for the wrong destination. Here's a number that should stop you cold. According to the Reserve Bank of India's household finance data, the average Indian middle-class household saves somewhere between 15 to 25% of their income. That's actually impressive. That's better than most developed countries. But now look at where those savings go. Fixed deposits, recurring deposits, gold, real estate locked in a home they live in, insurance policies that are essentially savings plans with tiny returns dressed up as protection. These are not necessarily bad choices, but here's what the data also tells us. The average annual return on these combined instruments across an Indian middle-class household's portfolio is roughly 6 to 7%. Inflation in India over the last decade has averaged around 5 to 6%. You're working this hard, you're saving this diligently, and your real wealth growth after accounting for inflation is somewhere between 0 and 2% per year. Meanwhile, the Sensex has delivered roughly 12 to 13% annually over the same period, before inflation. That's a real return of 6 to 7%. Same country, same economy. One family's money is growing 3 to 4 times faster in real, inflation-adjusted terms than another family's money. Not because they work harder, not because they earn more, because they learned a different lesson when they were young. So what is this lesson? What exactly did the rich kid learn at dinner that the middle-class kid didn't? It comes down to one idea. One simple, life-changing, completely counterintuitive idea. There are only two ways to make money in this world. You can work for money, or you can own things that work for money. That's it. That's the whole secret. The middle-class family teaches their child how to work for money, get skilled, get hired, get paid. The wealthy family teaches the child about ownership, buy assets, own equity, let money generate money. Now when you hear this the first time, it sounds obvious, almost too simple, like something from a self-help book. But stay with me, because the reason it changes everything is not the idea itself. It's the age at which it is learned and the depth at which it is understood. A wealthy child doesn't just hear "invest your money." They hear their father say, "That factory in Pune that makes auto parts, we own 2% of it. Every time they sell a crankshaft, we get a little bit of that." They hear their mother say, "That building near the station, we own the top floor. Every month, someone pays rent into our account. We don't have to do anything." They grow up with the concept of ownership so deeply embedded in their thinking that by the time they earn their first salary, they don't even question what to do with part of it. They buy assets automatically, almost instinctively. The middle-class child grows up hearing money doesn't grow on trees, which teaches them correctly that money requires effort. but it also accidentally teaches them something else, that you always have to be present for money to appear, that you have to show up, that you have to earn it. Nobody taught them that money can show up while you're sleeping. Now here's where it gets even more interesting and honestly a little uncomfortable. Let's say you have two people. Both earn 80,000 rupees a month. Both are disciplined. Both save 20,000 rupees a month. Person A puts 20,000 rupees into a recurring deposit every month. After 20 years, assuming a 7% annual return, they have roughly 1.05 crore rupees. Person B puts 20,000 rupees into a diversified equity mutual fund every month. After 20 years, assuming a 12% annual return, which the Sensex has historically delivered over long periods, they have roughly 1.98 crore rupees. That's a difference of roughly 93 lakh rupees. Same income, same saving habit, same 20 years, nearly double the outcome. That difference, 93 lakh rupees, is not the result of working harder. It's the result of knowing which asset class to own. Now let's push this further. What if person B also had a rental property, even a small one, generating 8,000 rupees a month, or owned a small business stake that paid a quarterly dividend? Now person B is not just building wealth faster. Person B is also building a second income stream, and then a third. And then here's the part the rich kid learned early. At some point, that second and third income stream grows large enough that person B doesn't need to trade their time for money anymore. Not because they stopped working, but because they no longer have to. That's what financial freedom actually means. It's not a big number in a bank account. It's the point where your assets earn more than you spend. It's an income that doesn't require your presence. Rich families understand this. They build towards it intentionally. Everyone else discovers it, if they discover it at all, somewhere around their 50s, wondering where the years went. But wait. Here's the part that most videos skip completely. Knowing this information and actually doing something with it are two completely different things. And the reason most people don't act, even after understanding the concept, is not laziness. It's not stupidity. It's something deeper. It's because of what money feels like. Think about how money is treated in a middle-class household. It's talked about in whispers. It creates tension. It's the reason behind arguments. It's something that is always just slightly not enough. And because of this emotional environment, money, for most people who grew up in these homes, carries anxiety, fear, scarcity. So when they earn money, the instinct is to hold it, not let it go. Keep it safe, because what if something goes wrong? But here's the brutal truth. Keeping money safe in low-return instruments while inflation quietly erodes its value, that is something going wrong. It's just happening slowly enough that you don't feel it until it's too late. Rich families don't have this emotional relationship with money. For them, money is a tool, like a hammer. You use it to build something. You're not afraid of the hammer. You pick it up, use it, and it helps you create more. When a wealthy father says, "We lost some money on that investment this year," there's no panic. There's a review, a lesson, a recalibration. When a middle-class family loses money on an investment, it confirms every fear they ever had, and they never invest again. This emotional programming around money is perhaps the deepest lesson the rich family passes on, and the hardest one to unlearn. So what do you actually do with all of this? Let's be very specific, because inspiration without direction is just noise. First, understand that the goal is not to save more. The goal is to own more. Saving is step 1. Deploying those savings into assets is step 2. Most people are stuck in step 1 forever. Second, start with what is accessible. You don't need to buy property or start a business to own productive assets. A 500 rupee SIP into an equity mutual fund is ownership. It's a fraction of hundreds of companies across India and the world. Their profits are in a small way your profits. Their growth is your growth. You don't have to be present for any of it. Third, think in decades, not months. The most dangerous thing about low return saving is that the damage is invisible year to year. After 5 years, the difference between 7% and 12% looks manageable. After 25 years is the difference between comfortable and genuinely wealthy. Fourth, separate safety from growth. You need some money that is truly safe. Emergency funds, short-term goals, 6 months of expenses in a liquid fund or FD, Absolutely. But once that is covered, every additional rupee that you lock into a 6.5% FD is a rupee that is quietly, slowly falling behind. Fifth, change what money feels like at home. If you have children, start talking about money differently. Not about how hard it is to earn, about how interesting it is to understand. Ask them what companies they like, explain what a shareholder is. Start small, but start early. Because the child who grows up knowing that owning things is a path, that child has an enormous advantage that has nothing to do with their starting wealth. Here's where we are. Rich kids learn almost by accident one enormous idea. That the game is not about working harder, it's about owning more. They learn it through conversations at the dinner table, through watching their parents make investment decisions, through growing up in an environment where money is a tool, not a source of dread. Most people learn this too late, or they learn it only after reading about it and then don't act because the emotional barriers are so deep. But you've just learnt it right now, which means the question is simply, what do you do with it? Because knowledge only becomes power when it changes behavior. And the first behavior to change is not which fund to pick or which stock to buy. It's simpler than that. It's deciding right now that you are going to be an owner, not just a worker, not just a saver, an owner. That you will build assets even slowly, even with small amounts, even imperfectly. Because imperfect ownership beats perfect saving every single time. Now, there's one more thing worth understanding before you go. Even people who learn all of this, even people who start investing, building assets, thinking like owners, even they sometimes find themselves anxious, stressed, worried about money. And that's a puzzle, isn't it? You'd think that once someone has wealth, worry disappears. But actually, wealthy people worry about money too, just about completely different things. And understanding what they worry about reveals something surprising about how financial anxiety actually works, and why the standard advice about building security doesn't fully solve it. That's what we explored in the previous video, why even rich people worry about money. And if today's video shifted how you think about building wealth, that one will shift how you think about the psychology behind it. The two ideas fit together in a way that might surprise you.